The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hello and welcome to Port Fan Radio. It is Rick Neuenhoven here, and hopefully everyone can hear me. I was a bit worried that my microphone isn't working properly. It's been a while since I've had to host a show in my own right without the care and comfort of the great man Macca, but unfortunately he's driving his car home from work and can't actually make tonight's show. And I've been stalling because I've been waiting for tonight's guest to come along, and so we both apologise for the delay, but I think she won't be far away. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the lovely Portia to join us, which I think she is just about to, and my squeaky chair is here, guys, I'll just say welcome aboard, and I hope you guys like the earlier show. And I'm just going to call in Portia now, and fingers crossed she answers.
Hello, sorry about that.
That's all right, Portia. So I've already started the show without you. Okay. So don't swear unless you mean to.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it is always possible. The season we've had so far, but I'll try not to.
Good work. Thanks for coming on. And so we're trying we're trialling a new time slot tonight to see how that works for people. And yeah. Oh, wait a sec. I've got Alistair Clarkson. Alistair.
Hello.
How are you, mate?
Good. I'm Alistair Clarkson, am I?
No, you're not. You're Alistair Carlton. But I thought I'd give you a bit of a pump up and say Alistair Clarkson. So how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just, I got this message. I was just putting my daughter in the bath and said, "Oi, Port Fan Radio. They want a bit of the Big Owl, so the Big Owl is here."
The Big Owl's here, and you've joined by the lovely Portia. Did you want to say hello to Portia?
Hi, Portia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thanks.
Excellent.
It's lovely to hear you and your dulcet tones, or your sexy tones, I should say.
I'll take that.
So what we're trialling tonight is maybe getting a few people calling in like yourself. So thanks for calling in.
No problems.
Before we start the show tonight, have you got a question for us?
Well, is John Butcher the future? Is the future dead?
That's yes. A bit harsh.
No, but is the future dead in the sense that he is no longer considered the future for Port Adelaide?
I think that even when we drafted him, there was an over-reliance on him being the future, given we were drafting in a tools draft and we picked one. I think that we have put an unfair label on him. He spent, even before we drafted him, he spent half the year out with injury, and we've just come in and said John Butcher's going to be awesome. He's shown some great signs, and it's just really hard to deliver on that, I suppose. So I think that we have to look forward. We have to start recruiting more KPPs. I know we've got a couple on the list, but we've got to keep plugging it until we get a couple that we can rely on. So I think we are moving on from Butcher at this point.
Portia, I just wanted to start it off this program by just a bit of an intro and look at the brief mid-season review that the boys touched on Monday. So I don't think we need to delve into it as deeply as what they did. But what did you think of the what did you think of the mid-season review? And I've got Al trying to call back in, so I'll get him back in as well, and we'll get Portia back up and running as well. Done. So what's your mid-season review, Portia?
Look, it's every time in the early off-season I seem to get antsy about stuff and everyone says relax or whatever else, and it's all comes down to list management. So a season review, yeah, we've had a lot of weaknesses exposed. I think that losing Polek has really hurt us. He's an extremely valuable sort of player, and I think, have I been dropped again?
No, you're still there.
Okay. We'll listen to your sexy tones.
Okay, thanks. So someone like Pollock missing, White obviously being off the ball. I mean, they were two of our really key forward entry players last year, and their lower form has really hurt us, I think. They're just getting that delivery into the forward line, which causes a whole bunch of problems further upfield, obviously. And that's part of why I suppose our tall forwards have been a bit less consistent than in previous years. As far as the defence, they're clicking well, but that's good. That should really be a baseline for any side, is that you have a defence that clicks reasonably well, because if they're not clicking well, I mean, you haven't got a team at all. Everything that's done by the coaches these days builds off defence, and that's certainly the case with us as much or more than any other side, with our reliance on slingshot defence. Obviously, we have to be disappointed that Port have finished in the latter position that we're at this current point. And there's a lot of good reasons to be annoyed at some of the things that have been happening, but really I think, and I'm just going to compare Hinkley to Choco here, not in a negative way, but I think that Hinkley, since he started as our coach, has been exactly like Choco in that he has been the absolute pragmatist, and he's tried to get the best out of the side he can with the squad he's got in front of him. But and that's great, and he's done a pretty good job of it, quite honestly. He's believed in the boys and put something together that kind of works, and they've, for the most part, done really well. But it really is a matter of addressing how we manage our off-field management by offering things like 2-year contracts to people in the SANFL and 4-year deal for Broadbent, which I'm not saying is bad, but that's a really long term for a flanker. Just have to start looking at what we're doing there, not recruiting tall forwards. It's really all comes down to list management, unfortunately, this time. That's going to take a few years. But more importantly, it's going to take a change in how we do things, and that's what hasn't changed between the coaches. That's what hasn't changed at all.
Between Choco,
Primus, Hinkley, we're still using pretty much the same methods of recruiting for the most part. The system's changed, but we're still prioritising much the same way. I haven't really noticed any change in our draft patterns at all as far as what we do. We're going in tall forward short, we're going big on flankers, and we're happy to draft them with early picks. And that's where we're at. You look at someone like Melbourne, though, they've had a lot of terrible selections, but now they've finally got a couple like that. Even Jack Watts hasn't turned out, but Jesse Hogan, finally, they got one that's going to be actually really good. But to get that guy, we say, oh yeah, but they've had all these early picks, and it's like, yeah, they have, but they've been using them to get key forwards as well. If you don't, even the earliest picks are still a pot shot, and you're only getting a chance, so you've got to have lots. So if we're looking back in the context of this season, the structure's not great, but I think that it's being coached as well as we can expect it to, and it comes down to getting as much out of them as we can, keeping everyone together that is actually important to keep in the side, and then just try and recruit better. And then just hopefully in the next couple of years it'll come together a bit.
So what about you, Al? What's your brief thoughts on the season so far?
Well, I suppose it's been a season of disappointment. We just have had too many players that just are out of form. We've had during the year, we've been cruelled by injuries a little bit, but really, we've got everyone on the park bar 2 players. Matty White and Polek from our first 18 are available at the moment. So, and the performances, losing to Carlton, who are on bottom of the ladder, it shows that we've just got no confidence in ourselves. People have worked out our game plan and are taking...
Right.
Well...
That was pretty concise. I think I might have dropped out there for a little bit. I'm being a bit cheeky. So. But I reckon I'm with you with that part. I don't know about worked out the game plan. There was a real mixed message that I picked up from the Tyson Edwards interview on AA when I was at the gym a couple of weeks ago, where he was talking about you know how Ken Hinkley was talking about they're getting 7 things out of 10 right, and each week it's 3 things it's always different, and then just not getting the 10 out of 10. And there was a comment he made there with that interview where I'm just sort of paraphrasing, where they would address that 3 out of 10 at training. And I think there's 2 parts to this, which sort of sticks out for me for the season. I don't think the injuries were an excuse at all, because even though there've been a few players, that hasn't been excessive compared to other teams. But it's the 2 things that stick out to me is, one, they seem to be addressing the 3 out of 10 on a weekly basis. Are they sending mixed messages to the players? right? And that's one thing that I'm starting to question. And the other question is, have the players, like the supporters and the media, looked at their good 3-2 record, where we weren't really questioning the fitness at all, or the form of players, and when we were 3-2, and we've hit a little bit of a hiccup, and the players have sort of got ahead of themselves a little bit as well, and they're sort of taken their eye off the ball, and they've been caught out. That's probably the two things that have stood out for me this season, and then all the rest has stemmed from those two issues.
I think there's a lot of other reasons as well. I remember, was it about round 5 or 6, and there was late in one game, Robbie Gray doing a stupid hand pass to Westhoff in the square, which left Westhoff with an opportunity to kick the ball over his head, and I thought, yeah, that's still the old Port Adelaide, by which I mean the not very good Port Adelaide. I think there's still a lot of that. It's a culture change, because we've been terrible for a pretty decent amount of time before Hinkley came in, and certainly a lot of the players that are in the senior side now are used to Port Adelaide bad style football. Like not chasing or taking dumb risks that have no real merit. Watching the ball, these are all things that are sort of part of the Port Adelaide culture, I hate to say at this point. I think that it's just still a matter of eradicating them slowly. But as for the 3 and 10 missing, I mean, I'd probably suggest that might mean that the 3 and 10, or in fact the 10 out of 10, that if that's something that keeps happening, and you're not able to address it, after a while that's a coaching failure, not just a player one.
That's exactly
really,
right. And that's what I think too. I think the coaches need to take a look. I mean, and if you start chasing your tail, trying to address the 3 things that are going wrong, and each week it's something different, it goes back to the point. When does it become mixed messages to the players and actually confuse the players on what's going on? And it's just, and it just brings up. I don't really want to dwell on the Magpie issue, because the Magpies have got their own show coming up at 8:00 tonight with Matt and Harold. But the one common issue that I saw was the skills in the Magpie games on the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, Portia, but the skills were pretty woeful, and the tackling was woeful as well. It was just, we just seem to be doing this throw the arm out token effort for the tackles at this point in time, and that seems very un-Hinkley-like from the previous 2 years.
I think that there's... Look, I don't have any evidence of it, but I think there's something different with the Magpies. Like, if you look at the players that have come into the top Port Adelaide side that have been in the SANFL even briefly, the ones that come through the Magpies are usually among the worst. And this is before one club, I should point out. And, you could argue that there might have been some more development needed doing then, because it seems coincidence that all the not particularly good Port power players are coming through the Magpies. But now they're all at the Magpies, I don't know how much things have changed there off-field. I just sort of wonder if that's part of it. I don't know if it's because you're sort of part of the home team, whether you're not got the same... you've got a different focus in how you play. So if you're Chad Wingart playing for Sturt, you'd want Sturt to win, but ultimately you're there as a power player. Whereas if you're at the Magpies, well, one club, you want the team to win, sorta. So you probably do just enough to win, and you don't really necessarily think so much about your own personal performance as you would if you're at a foreign club where everyone kind of hated you and you want to get back in the top side. I don't know if that's a factor or not. No idea. I don't
know either. It's just a bit of a mystery anyway. But I guess we'll better get chopping along. And so we've made one selection change with Paddy Ryder in and Kane Mitchell out, with Paul Stewart and Jake Need as subs, which I would find probably unlikely that they would be playing since they only played on Sunday, but they're travelling emergencies. So what do you think of the change?
Ryder in's good. I think he'll play well at the SCG. I think that's a good size ground for him, nice and compact. So his ability to take a mark sort of in that forward half is good enough for him to be close enough to goal to kick goal. So I think we'll actually probably might even see his best performance this year, I'd say. That's going to be my guess. As far as meeting up with Sydney, look, they're always going to be a really tough ask for us. I don't know if our matchups are going to be sufficient to get a win at the SCG. It's a really hard ground for teams to win at. What
about the omission of Kane Mitchell? And I don't say this trying to be offensive to any player, but is this almost putting a line through Kane Mitchell and his Port Adelaide career?
No, because, okay, yes, it could be, but if it is, then that's a list management thing because we promoted him last year, so why did we do it? But I don't think it is. I think that it's just they've decided, I know he's off the boil. Again, it's how we manage our team. We show a lot of faith in the guys and we hang on to them for a very long time if we put a little bit of faith in them, which can pay off occasionally, but mostly doesn't. And I think Mitchell's pretty much in that camp.
But he only came back for one game, didn't he?
Yeah.
So we didn't
What's
really...
he doing differently?
Well, I don't know if he's doing anything differently, but I mean, I just don't get this. Bring someone in for a game, drop them straight away. If that's really the solution to any problems, and I noticed a few people on the forums were surprised Tom Jonas got another gig after his poor form, and I guess if you are a Kane Mitchell or a fringe player, I guess you could actually start potentially asking questions because he could have quite easily been in the chopping block. And I think this comes back to what you were saying about Ken Hinkley being a little bit pig-headed, similar to the Choco days. Because if you
I never said pig-headed. I just said pragmatic. That's different.
Well, same thing.
No, pragmatic means that you do what you can with what you got. It's different completely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna say he's been. A lot of people think he's being a little bit pig-headed, and I'm not meaning stubborn. I'll say stubborn, right? Instead of pig-headed, he's being a little bit stubborn in wanting to maybe drop certain players from the side, and I think Tom Jonas should have probably been one that deserved to be dropped after the Carlton game.
He was disgraceful. I'm sorry. I'm going to say this, and I've been saying it for probably 3 weeks. Jonas is on the Choco Gold Pass. He has got the Gold Pass because his form this season has been terrible. You give him a senior player, a leader, 6 weeks. But after 6 weeks, you've got to start looking at it and making a decision. And the decision would be to let him go back to the SANFL, get some form, get back to what he's good at, being the glove, and then once he's got that confidence back, bring him up. But 6 weeks, it's half a season and he's played terrible. I can't remember one decent game he's played this season.
I kind of disagree with the solution there for the problem, which is that if you drop him back, who do you bring in? You bring in someone like Cleary. Has he done enough to say, yes, I need to be in the side? Because if he hasn't, then it's not really doing anything. It's just a punishment, and it's not really going to help the side at all in that respect. And also, as far as going back and getting confidence at a lower level, I think we're long past the time that SANFL was even vaguely near AFL standard. And getting confidence, speeding up nobody's imported from seconds leagues in Bendigo and wherever else, that's not really going to do a lot for your confidence when you go back and play against the real teams, I don't think. For a senior player, for a junior player, absolutely. But for a guy in Jonas's age bracket, I don't think it does him any good at all to go back to the SNFL, quite frankly, and I don't think it would improve his game at all. And I suppose there's also something to be said for, look, hey, you're in the side, we were relying on you, lift your game. And no, you're not getting dropped. Lift your game. You're going to have people watching you the whole time. Deal with it. And that's, that's character building in itself, I would have thought.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. If you're not performing at the level required, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. And I'm not going to attack you like people do on the boards, etc. But I just disagree that if you're not performing and you're at a level below, give someone else an opportunity to play and see what they're made of. Because a senior player, you give him 6-8 weeks, but he's had 12 weeks. He has played poor football all season. So what's going to turn around if we keep on playing him when he's playing poorly?
Well, I think the argument too was that Tom Cleary probably did enough to maybe justify staying in the side. When I think he went when Jackson Trengove came back. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I would have thought that maybe with Tom's form, and I think he's been a great player for us and a great rise from the rookie list. But yeah, I think his form probably could have warranted Tom Cleary staying in and giving him a go. And I mean, we are probably a little bit threadbare with our reserves. None of them are really putting their hands up at this point in time. We had Scott S tweet into us saying, Port Fan Radio, is the reserves for the Hawks and Cats a big issue when the VFL won flags and so did the AFL team?
in itself, I don't think there's any issue with having all your reserves at the same club as the main side. I don't think that's an issue at all. But I think that before one club, there were issues with how power players came through the Magpies because we didn't really have any good ones come through, even the ones that were reported. And I don't know if those issues were addressed when we went one club. Like, I don't know if things have changed there so that we actually have a focus at the Magpies on producing quality power players, which is what I think it essentially needs to be.
I guess the thing that I do like from the one club perspective is that I do feel like the two, I'm going to segregate them as two playing groups, even though they're sort of one list, but you do have the top-up players. But both levels, they do seem to be supporting each other genuinely. That's how it appears to me. And I think that's good from a cultural perspective of the footy club. And, so I guess we spoke about Tom Jonas, but Portia, I think he might have had to go off for a sec with his daughter there. But is there any changes that you would have made to the side that's been listed for this week, or are you happy with the team selection?
Look, I think it's about as good as we can name right now. The only query I'd have would be over Cahoon, because I'm still not super sold on him. And whether I'd rather, if I was choosing between, say, Cahoon and Archie or Cracker, I'd pick one of those two for sure, comfortably. And of the other two, basically as a starter, have those in. As far as the second level, I don't know. Who would you bring in? Oh, God, bring back Amon? Is he okay, or I don't know?
Yeah, I don't know. He was okay in the Maggies game. He had a shot on goal, which was an absolute shocker. He was about. You didn't see the game last weekend, did you?
No, afraid not.
He was. Did you? He was about 20 metres out on like a 5-degree angle, like pretty much straight in front, and kicking to the southern end, and he basically kicked it out on the full, about 20 metres wide of the point post. I don't know. And I guess this goes back to our skills. I don't know how you could miss it by so far as a professional player. But I think Sammy Cahoon's been great since he's been back, and I think he provides that link-up play that we need. But I agree with you. I wouldn't be choosing him over Brendan Archie or Nathan Cracker, who are both on the bench. And I really hope that that Brendan gets a full game. I thought his half a game replacing Robbie Gray's concussion, he did it more than what he could be asked to do. And I know I'm a Brendan fan, so I am trying to look at it objectively and unbiased. And I thought his performance. I can't be. I'm going to try, and I think with an unbiased hat, I think he deserves a full game. So maybe looking at that bench of Momfries, Archie, Cracker and Moore, maybe we're going to look at Andrew Moore as the sub, considering his output in our previous game wasn't that fantastic. Would you guys go down that path?
I'm not convinced he's got the burst energy to come on as a sub.
No, I agree with that.
We agree, Portia, because I disagree with him being the sub because he can't make that initial impact. He's a grinder. He's a grinder. He just goes from contest to contest. He doesn't have that burst like Arch does or a Mitchell does. That type of burst impact that someone can have, and that's what you want from a sub. And I don't think Moore gives you that.
No.
So who does that? That's on our 22-man roster there.
Arch.
Yeah. He does get hyped. I've seen him running up and down the side of the ground, and he's just ready to go. So I don't know. Arch is probably. Oh, it's unfortunate, but he's probably best suited, or not best suited, but he's the one that is definitely going to be more hyped when he's on the bench and he comes on. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know whether maybe even there's a fitness factor that's part of it. So maybe he doesn't have the endurance to perform at that level all game, and he's good for the sub. But
so do you?
Cracker.
Are we wasting Cracker though? Do we need Cracker more this week than another week because of the tight confines of the SCG and lack of space? So we need someone with his precision kicking, because let's face it, over the last few weeks, he's probably been our form disposal user of the ball.
I think his level head more than his precise kicking is more the issue, the seniority, because at the SCG it's always a scramble. And so if you're not pretty aware of what's going on around you, you're going to struggle. And I think he's got that awareness. And I suppose that could be another thing against Brendan Archie having a full game, is just having to have that kind of awareness at the SCG because the ground is so small. I don't know if he's got the concentration for it, does he? I don't know. We haven't seen it at AFL level yet because he hasn't had the opportunity to show it. So
that's right. We need to see it.
Hard to call. You do need
but
to see it, right?
I think that's a very good point. Sorry, Al, you can chip in a sec. I was just going to say it's a very good point about using the ball. That's probably been one of our weaknesses coming out of the back lines this year. We haven't really been hitting up targets. What were we going to say, Al?
I was going to say, what about Jasper as the sub? He's got that explosion, etc. Maybe he would be a good person for the sub.
All right, thanks for your contribution on the show tonight, Al. It's been great having you on, mate. But look, there's someone else coming.
Look,
nah.
just on Pittard being the sub, he could be the sub, but I think that his main benefit is in setting up the play, and he can potentially go through, I suppose, and be on the outside of packs or whatever else. But really, that setting up the play is something that's good to set the standard for all game. I think one thing I'm confident in Pittard doing is that even when no one else is doing it, he will try and make an efficient switch. He will try and create effectively, even if upfield they're sort of stuffing around and not really running as hard as they should be. So I'd certainly back that in as an important thing to have Jasper Pittard playing pretty much all game if possible.
It almost sounds a bit silly, but I guess I would have probably looked at maybe an Andrew Moore and dropping him or a Tom Jonas and keeping Kane Mitchell on as the sub. To me, that probably might have been more an effective player to use in that sub role, or potentially maybe one of those players like Andrew Moore might drop out and they might bring Jake Need in.
Need or Amon would be my choice.
Because Need had an amazing first quarter for the Maggies and then disappeared after that, so he might be pumped to play one quarter of footy.
He lacks consistency, that's why he's not playing. Because they said that if they had an informed Jake Need, he'd be in our best 22 every week. If Jake Need is in form, because we need that small crumbing forward, and if he was in form and he's not, he's just not consistent enough, and that's why he's not playing. So,
yeah, I don't agree with that selection principle, because if you need a small forward, you need a small forward of some kind. Who's going to do it? You know, who have we got on that side that will do it? And we've got a couple of guys, but both of them, Robbie Gray and Chad Wingard, they should be in midfield. They shouldn't be small forward.
Exactly.
Maybe Sam Cahoon is going to be the small forward. I don't know who would be.
Yeah. Well, we don't really have one. I mean, I don't look at Chad as a small forward.
No, that's what I'm saying. But
yeah,
he's the closest we've got. Him and Robbie.
I agree. So maybe Need does need to come in as a small forward, and I don't know why he drifted out. Well, the whole team on the weekend drifted out for the Maggies. It wasn't just Jake Need. They all just disappeared. So I don't know what happened there, but it seems to be a cultural thing between both of the sides this year, well, especially the power side, where we seem to be disappearing for greater periods of time. So what about the omission of Buddy Franklin and Kurt Tippett? Is their twin towers? Is that going to benefit us at all, or not really?
It probably makes them less predictable, which could catch us out because we are not coping with less predictable, which is why we're losing to bottom sides. But basically, back in the day, say 10 years ago, North Melbourne's great thing was that they would beat all the sides that had a really good structure, and as soon as you had a really weird structure, they'd start losing games, and that's how they finish mid-table all the time. And I think that we're kind of in that boat right now ourselves, against a side that we know really well, that does the same thing the same way every week. We've got probably more of a shot than we have against a team that's sort of up and coming and we don't know exactly what they're going to bring. And I think that's sort of what Sydney's turned themselves into with those two exclusions. So, it's tough to know. It'll be a very different kind of game to what we would have planned at the start of the year, I guess. Don't know.
What do you think, Al?
Well, I think it's going to be a really tough game because I'd say that Homsch is going to go to Goods because they'll have Goods and Reed up forward. So then you've probably got Jackson on Reed, and then who does Bobby go to? It kind of throws us out a little bit, and if we can't kick goals and their backline is still as good as it ever has been, if we can't kick goals and win that midfield battle, what they've got up forward isn't going to matter to us because they'll still be able to kick goals from people like Hanbury, McVeigh, etc. And so that's not going to matter if we can't win that midfield battle. So, and our forwards to actually kick some goals and not rely on Chad and Robbie. Actually, get some stuff out of Westy and Schulze.
Well, they've brought in Dean Towers, who's a tall player, and I think they've brought in. Was that last year's draft pick that Nan Curvis?
He's a ruckman.
Who's a ruckman as well, wasn't he? But he was last year's draft selection.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. I don't pay that much attention to.
Yeah, I reckon I remember talking about him with Macca and a guest, and about maybe experimenting with him. So obviously they've still picked a couple of tall players to come back in. So they're not going to be playing a small forward line with Adam Goods and Sam Reid also hanging around as well. And look, I highly doubt the players are going to be complacent and going, "Oh, beauty, we're going to win this game now that there's no Franklin and Tippett." I'm sure they're not that naive. And yeah, I think like you guys just pointed out, we're going to have to be accountable in the midfield, and that's where a lot of our issues have been coming from this year.
Midfield, sure, but I think the main area that we're going to need to focus on is just really, really loading our half-back line so that they can't take shots from 50, because that's what you do at the SCG every time. So that's going to be the most important part, is just making sure that always the half-back line for us is completely chockers.
So how do we handle the Matt Loeb, Paddy Ryder combination for this game?
I'm playing Ryder out forward in my mind.
Yeah.
As am I.
Yeah.
You guys just want to see him forward pocket for the bulk of the game?
I want to see him leading full forward with Jay Schultz maybe going down further and up the ground would be my go.
Yeah.
Yep. Let him come out to about 40, or they've got it marked as 50.
Yep. No, it's 50 now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, they stretched the stadium, so it's a legitimate 50 metres as you do.
Yep.
That's right. But yeah, I see Paddy Ryder as more of a forward and giving Globey a chop out for 10 minutes a quarter maybe, and then allowing Westhoff to go back forward and just be the complete utility.
So are you both concerned with Lobie's form this year?
I guess it comes down to what you expect Lobie to do. Not really a criticism, because it's not a fair criticism, but one of the things that we're really missing from back in the day is having set plays in ruck where we know that, okay, we'll see some common things happen where the ruckman will get it to this player and then they'll do this, or try to get a player in this position and they'll do this. And I don't think we reliably see that with Lobby at any point. He's really just sort of a mid-range negative ruckman as much as anything. So the fact he's out of form, it's not great. There's certainly that could improve. He could work on that a bit more. But then again, I don't really know what our set plays are in midfield, to be honest. I don't know what our set plays are across the side for the most part, apart from the slingshot. That's probably part of why we've been hard to match up on in the last couple of years. But I think that it's also confusing for players as well, and that could be part of it. Maybe they just don't know how to read him. Maybe they're working on some new things and they just haven't come off. I don't know.
We had a couple of tweets too. Scott S. said, "Cheers for the response, Portia. Glad you're on again." So you've got a bit of a cult following. I'm sure people don't care about me and Craig. They just want you guys on here. And Paul Valudis said, "Definitely think Crack or Arch would do better with the bigger Sydney bodies." Thoughts?
Okay, this is not a harsh criticism, but I don't know about Arch. He looks like he's got gym muscles, really. I don't know how good he is at necessarily being beaten around in harsh contests. I don't know if that's really something I would pinpoint him as being able to do. I do think he's very good in traffic, but as far as laying crunching hip and shoulders or anything like that, or just being able to break through tackles, I don't know that he's got it in him. I don't know.
I haven't seen enough of him to make a judgment either way, because I haven't watched too much SANFL football in the last few years, and that's where he's been basically languishing. And all I know of him is his massive handballs. That's all. So
I want to see him handball a goal from 50 metres and it be awarded a goal.
You're an idiot.
Okay. That's, yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. All right. So, what about how do we win this game? And if we do have anyone that's actually listening to us, and we've got a few tweets, so maybe we do, feel free to call in with a quick question. But how do you guys think we're going to win this game?
I think we load the half-back line and just clog it up as much as possible. We set up offensively in midfield and we just ping it forward as much as possible, and we try and keep the forward line as empty as we feasibly can so that Ryder has a lot of room to run in.
So you're trolling the big footy forums then, where everyone's heads are exploding on a daily basis because we don't play a forward line at all. So you're wanting more of the same.
I'm setting up a rider's paddock, like the old Pagans paddock sort of thing. I think that's probably one of the best options we have. So we have Ryder leading out, and at the same time we have either Schultz or Justin Westhoff leading to goal. That would be my ideal forward line setup. Just the two forwards this game because it's a small ground.
Big Al?
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I would set up from... Are you there, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'd go from, rather than set up from midfield, I'd actually slingshot from that half-back line. Like, you put those extra players and link up via handball and get the gut running of people like Ebert, Boak, Wingard, like, streaming back, and then have, like, Schultz and Ryder at about the 50 line, leading back to goal, so that they've both got a side of that 50 each, and you just can choose either way depending on who's got the best matchup. But I think we can try and beat them for leg speed because Sydney aren't known for their speed, and we can slingshot past them.
Well,
do you disagree?
I kind of disagree because they know that that's what we love doing, so that's the first thing they'll set up to try and stop. You know, if in that circumstance, if we try and with the slingshot, all they've got to do is just keep the pressure on along the centre line, and then they'll just shut us down completely because we'll try and rebound, they'll cut us off, and then they'll get enough over the top that they'll score quite well. So I think that we need to have a backup for the slingshot because really it's our first weapon and we don't have a second one at the moment. So I think we should be developing that as much as anything, and we're more likely to catch an advantage if we can set up in a way that does not require us to slingshot it every time.
Well, I think one saving grace is we haven't had a half forward line this year, and Sydney, the SCG is probably a ground where you don't need one. So,
I kind of feel like the SCG is a ground where the midfield and the half forward line are all half forwards. It's different in that respect. The more you can have, the better, really.
But I do like your suggestion about emptying out the forward line, leaving Ryder in there. Obviously, we need a crummer running to front and centre. Who's that going to be? That's the question that we were asking before. I guess Chad will probably be the logical one, but then we devoid him from his midfield time.
I think Monfries.
Yeah, Monfries as well have to be. The thing that's been missing for us, which was one of our weapons against Sydney last year when we went so close to beating them, was our transition and our transition game plan. And I think back to Brad Ebert having such a great head-to-head battle with Mr. Kennedy. So I'm really hoping that we do follow the suggestion that you make in Portia. I think that's a very good suggestion. And in the midst of that, we can get the transition and try and open up the flank and run it into an isolated Paddy Ryder. Can we do it? That is the $1 million question. And what we need to do, I guess this would be my key to winning, and we'll get your keys to winning would be, or if you want to not bypass the key to winning, and your player that's going to win us the game will be our improving our disposal efficiency. If we can't use the ball well at the SCG, we're going to get annihilated. So I pray, fingers crossed, that we use the ball well. If we can do that, that will be our key to winning.
Using the ball reasonably well is important in all games, and I agree that we can be undone by it, but I think that I think our intensity is going to be more important than our accuracy, realistically at this point, because if we want to play the smart, slow game and just try and pinpoint everything, I mean, Sydney's been playing at a higher level than we have for a long time, and that's a game that they are used to seeing and that they're used to playing. The thing that's most likely to unsettle them is if we just go at it full out for 4 quarters, and in that respect, it's going to be coming down to midfield grunt, and I suppose that might be why Andrew Moore's there, if they think he can provide that. but we just need to hammer them at every ball up as much as possible. And if it's not going our way, lock it up like we used to do. Just really lock it up and grind it out. And I think that it sounds weird to try and play that game against the Swans, but I think that's the sort of thing that'll actually work.
So who's the player you guys are picking to win us the match?
Oh, gosh.
And you might as well throw in the result and score while you're at it.
I'm going to say if we win, Hamish Hartlett will be not the best player, but he'll be much better than he has been. And I think he'll kick at least 3 goals.
Awesome.
And the result, I'd say 20 points for us.
We're going to win by 20 points.
I think so.
Awesome. It's do or die, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Well, they're all ready to go after the break, like they were at the start of the year. And they had those big scalps to go for, and they've got a new big scalp now.
Yeah.
They're as much as I was saying that it's hard for us to match up on Sydney because they haven't got Tippett and Franklin. Equally, it's a little bit harder for them to work out what they're supposed to do. They have to reload the memories of 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. But yeah, I think that we've got a pretty good shot here, particularly with the break on our side.
Big Al?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Robbie Gray is going to be the most important player for us in the sense that when he's in traffic in like a congested small ground, he can make things happen. Like he can just get out of a congested situation and kick the ball forward. And I think that's going to be really important in that constant stoppage game that we're potentially going to play against Sydney this week. So it's the battle of the midfield, and I reckon that he'll provide that advantage for us.
Result?
Put Adelaide by 9.
Jeez, he's too optimistic. And I think it's a bit of an indictment on our team in the last game when Robbie Gray gets knocked out at just before half-time, and he ends up still being our leading clearance player at the end of the game. He's a gun, and you can't go wrong there. I was going to pick him too, Al, but for the sake of being different, I'm going to go with nostalgia and say that I'm hoping that Brad Ebert's going to be the key to us winning. I'm hoping we're going to see his line-breaking run again, which I think has been lacking over recent time, and I'm hoping that he will also curtail the influence of Josh Kennedy a little bit. I'm going to say the margin will probably be 6 goals, and I'm going to go in Sydney's favour.
Oh, dagger through the heart.
I'm sorry, I'm being a realist.
You really are being Macca for the night, aren't you?
I just
really disappointed me.
I'm sorry. I hope the boys win, but I just can't see where it's going to come from. I just think they're so devoid in confidence of the game plan now that I just can't see how it can turn around. And we've lost to Brisbane away and Carlton away, both with the bottom sides. How can we logically, taking emotion out of it, pick Port Adelaide to beat a team that's in the top 4 and a juggernaut and doing pretty well? I just can't see it, and I'll be pleased to be proven wrong, and I hope so, because a win like this could springboard a renewed finals hope.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be a downer. So, what do you reckon?
I'll counter that to a small amount, because you said we lost away to Brisbane and Carlton, but they're both big grounds, or fairly. Whereas we beat North Melbourne at Colonial, and what was the other small ground one we won? I've forgotten already. But anyway, we beat North Melbourne at Colonial, so, I still call it Colonial. I'm terrible.
Well, we beat Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval. We beat Adelaide at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
And who else? Oh, watch out. We've got a call. Wait a sec. Have I incorporated our guest caller? Hello?
Hello, how are we?
Oh, my God.
Craig, you couldn't leave us alone. How are you, my friend?
Mate, very well, very well. How's
Awesome. Very good. We're just going through seeing who people think going to win, and so Portia's picked Port by 20, and ours picked Port by 9, if I remember rightly, and and I've come out and picked Sydney by 6 goals.
Yeah, it's okay, Macca. He was you for you.
You're doing the Macca. Why have I called in then?
I've done the Macca. So
no one said that's it yet.
I know everyone would love to hear your very quick thoughts, Macca. So what would you like to share with us, mate?
Oh, look, Sydney by 76.
How gutted
Yeah.
you'd be if
No,
you were
look,
right.
Hang up on him now.
Oh, look, I'm very, very happy that their Twin Towers are out, but I still can't really see where we're legitimately going to win the game unless our forward line really fires. I think their midfield's still too strong. I think it's they've just got too many stars and too many contested ball winners in their midfield, which I think is going to cause us a few issues, and I think that's where the game's going to be won.
Fair call. Hey, we've got Scott S. who's tweeted in as well and asked us the thoughts on the soccer body big footy theory.
What?
About our
so
players
you mean
being-
training.
Yeah, training and the approach Darren Burgess is taking, and the thing that people think that we're too skinny.
Are we being too harsh on Darren Burgess? Should
Yes.
more heat be going to Andrew Rondinelli?
Well,
Because he is the strength coach.
he does report to Andrew Burgess, so
I like it how you did that quietly and sort of trailed off. You don't want to cause
Well-
conflict with the Lord of Macca here.
you know, we say, like what we were saying earlier, this show that, you know, if the players are performing badly, yeah, originally it's at the players, but if you don't do anything about it, it's the coach. And I suppose you have to say the same thing for fitness. Like, if there is an issue there, which I'm not saying there is, but if there is, well, then, you know, the buck stops at the top, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look, Burgess was our fitness coach last year, and we didn't really have a problem last year. So I think people putting a lot of the blame on Darren Burgess is, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's 100% correct.
I'm not either, because he's
I'm not
got
saying you are.
you know.
I'm just saying that, you know, there's a lot of comments going around Big Footy and other social media places that, you know, Burgess has, turned us into middle distance runners and all that sort of thing. And look, I've said it as well, but I don't know. I think maybe, I think there's other reasons for our downturn other than the fact that, we're a little bit too slender, I think.
I think that's a perception, though, more than a fact. Realistically, I think if you went through the comparison lists, height and weight for us against other clubs, I don't think we'd be too different. I think that if we look soft, it's because our game plan doesn't focus on contested forward movement. It relies on avoidant forward movement. In that, rather than pushing through packs and going out the corridor, we always want to just get an outside possession if we can, and that's reflected in, I suppose, the perceptions of how we see Port Adelaide play. We see them as being soft or not as tough, but that's because that's how they're playing. It's not really to do with their bodies, I don't think.
Spot on. Nailed it.
Big Al, what do you reckon, mate?
I'm pretty much in agreement with Portia. We've had some disagreements, but today I will agree with that, because I don't think that. I think it's the game style that we're playing rather than Darren Burgess. I think that he's kept our list on the park better than any other club. And we had no issues last year with our body size and shape. We've had a few bad games, and they're seeing that we're soccer players. But I think it's more the style of play that we're playing. Just because he was involved with Liverpool, he thinks everyone says, "Oh, they're soccer bodies." That's crap.
Yeah, it's just dumb thinking, really. You know.
So, all right. So Macca and I are banished from being Port Adelaide supporters anymore for our selections. Are there any games of interest outside of our game, and that takes your fancies this weekend?
Well, look, I'll leave you guys to it. So enjoy the rest of the podcast.
On your way.
Thank you, Macca.
That's it.
Bye, Craig.
Can't hear.
Is there any other games?
I guess the one for me would be Adelaide versus Geelong, because Geelong I can't work out now. I've really got no idea what's going on. They beat us. They get beaten by Melbourne quite well, really.
Yeah.
In Geelong. And so coming over to Adelaide to play Adelaide, I really hope they do Adelaide, because if they don't, first of all, I don't understand what's going on, but also because the crowds will be so annoying. It's definitely the case. So that's the one I'm looking at this week for sure.
Me personally, if Port Adelaide loses on Thursday, I don't watch football for the rest of the weekend because I crack the sads.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So you won't have another. What if we win? Which game would you be interested in watching?
I don't know, whatever is on when I'm drinking beer. I don't really care for other teams, unless there's someone that potentially we're going to pick up as a free agent or something like that. I like football, but I don't really care who wins and loses each week. It's just whatever put out. Like, I might be interested in the Collingwood game because we play them on Thursday. You know what I mean? Like, and see what's happening with them and what type of form they're in. That's probably all. I don't even know who they're playing this week. Haven't done my tips yet.
Hawthorn. Yeah.
Yep, Hawthorn. So, what do you guys think of the back-to-back Thursday fixture? Do you like the fixture of Thursday night football, or would you rather just watch a neutral game on Thursday night and not have the Port Adelaide team playing on a Thursday night?
I'd rather have no one playing on Thursday night and have 2 Friday night games. Realistically.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens every time.
I wonder about that because with 2 Friday night games, are we just going to have, one banished to Foxtel? Where is there as much derived benefit with the sponsors by having a Foxtel Friday night game to a free-to-air Friday night game? So will that become the poor club time slot? So they'll hand that one out to your Port Adelaides and your Bulldogs, where the financial benefit isn't as great.
Okay, well, first of all, let's say that we become the designated second Friday night side who gets on Foxtel. It'll be live on TV in Adelaide, so that's great. It'll give all the people that are working in the city an opportunity to walk down to the game at the end of the week where they can actually get a bit drunk, and so that helps our income in that respect if they go to I forget the name of the little bar.
Village.
Yeah, that's the one. And if we talk about the sponsorship opportunities, well, I mean, if you're looking at, I suppose, a Sunday twilight versus a Friday evening, I mean, obviously, I'd say even the second Friday evening is going to be better for us, realistically, than a Sunday twilight, So I'd always have 2 Friday night games if possible, and have Port be one of them. If Port all year long could be the second Friday night side, that'd be great for us, I'd imagine. I can't see how it wouldn't be.
But yeah, Thursday nights for me throws my week out because I can't have too many beers because I got to work.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm starting to get a bit of a theme here, Al, with what's revolving around your lifestyle.
Football and beer go hand in hand.
You're a true Aussie male. I'm actually interested to see the West Coast Melbourne game from the fact that Melbourne did top. Because the fact that Melbourne did topple Geelong, to see how they back that up. But also, I think if West Coast can win this game, I think they're almost a serious threat for a top 2 spot, if they're not already. And I think that's going to be an amazing dynamic for the game of Aussie rules football, to have potentially 2 Perth teams finishing top 2, which you would almost think would lead to a all-Perth grand final. And God, how would the AFL bureaucracy handle that?
I don't think they'd care. In fact, it'd be really good for them to say, hey guys, look how this is. We had all these flights from Perth this week. Look at all these hotel rooms that were booked, and they'll get, the local money sources on side. I don't think they mind it. Any ones that don't like MCC members, I suppose.
And maybe the Victorian clubs. Eddie Maguire might not like it.
Well, yeah, but every club doesn't like when someone else wins a premiership. That's not new.
Eddie Maguire whinges about everything, so it wouldn't matter who it was. If Collingwood's not in there, he'll have a sook.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, I think Hawthorn will probably still get there. They're a great system at the moment, and they're leading a lot of the stats again, or they're right up there. And I just think they're good enough that even if Freo and West Coast finish top 2, that they could probably topple one of those sides in the first week of finals if they finish in the top 4. And unfortunately, I think they're going to be a juggernaut again unless they get ahead of themselves. Were you guys? I guess I was just going to have a little section here about if you had anything that you'd like to add from the week of football. I guess what did you both think of the Sam Mitchell jab jibe and that? I guess, from my perspective, winners are grinners at the end of the day, and that's what footy's all about. And you know what, Sam Mitchell's probably smug, but as Titus O'Reilly quoted it during the week on Facebook, it must be a hard life. Sam Mitchell waking up, looking at himself at the mirror, reflecting on the 3 premierships he's got in the cabinet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just footy, isn't it?
Exactly.
It is.
The banter that gets put on a football field and the things that get said but people don't realise are said on the football field are like that or worse. So if you're going to play football, everything's fair game other than your family or race or sexuality. Everything else is fair game in my opinion. So if you play football, you got to take it, and I reckon that someone would have given them something like that in the past anyway. So from my opinion, it's a storm in a teacup and move on. Who cares? It's football.
Yep.
I think there's no doubt that sports of all kinds have given us some fantastic sledges, and cricket certainly most of those, I'd say. But I agree that certainly it's how it's played. I don't think it has to be played that way. I think you can niggle people very much based on how they are playing in a game, I would have thought, just by itself and without even swearing or anything. You know, it wouldn't take too much to get inside some players' heads, particularly if they kick out on the full or whatever else. I think I mentioned it on the show before last year, but I'll always remember Corey McKernan lining up in front of goal with Michael Wilson standing the mark, and he kicked it straight out of bounds on the full, and the absolute spray Michael Wilson gave him, and I don't think he would have had to say a single negative thing, just laughed his head off. So I see absolutely as part of current football culture, but I'm not convinced it needs to be for the next 20, 30 years. No.
So did you guys have anything else you wanted to add to tonight's show before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think I do really. Only that, no, not really. Just management, that doesn't really need me to talk about it, and if I start, I won't stop, so I won't talk about that.
We'll probably talk about that closer to the off season, I would imagine.
Yep.
But when we're filling in space. Yeah, Al?
I was going to say, like in the off season, we could have Portia's list management show, and we can talk about list management each week for an hour. Talk about what we could do, and we could do the whole summer of Portia talking about list management. I reckon it would be fantastic.
Terrible.
Jeez, you got such a fan following, Portia. You must be so proud of yourself.
I don't understand it. So if that's the case, fine.
I'm grossly jealous because I never hear calls of, when are we getting Rick back on again when I miss a show?
Well, because you only miss one show or 2 shows, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm sure Macca and I will be putting out a survey shortly closer to the end of this year about what everyone wants to hear from the show and the other shows. And I guess I know Al, with your own show that you do on Tuesday nights, you're getting an appreciation of the time that it takes to regularly put into one of these. So Macca and I are, with my business and with his family and his travel, we do find it a bit tough at times. So we're probably going to have to look at spreading the load and a little bit next year because it is very difficult. But we love doing it, and we love getting you all on as guests, and we love the people that download and the few people that listen live, and hopefully next year we'll be able to pump up the live listeners a bit more as well. So it's great having everyone involved, and hopefully we can turn this season around. And so I'll say thank you for both of you joining us tonight, and for the people that did contribute. And I reckon I'll have a chat to you both off air, and we'll see who we want to pull out a $20 meal voucher for contributing with us via the tweets. And
very fancy.
I know, at the Port Club, it's a great place to go, and I know Al's been pumping up the Port Club tyres quite a bit on his show as well, and and all I can say is, my God, I can't believe tax season has already started. It's the 1st of July, and this office is bloody getting pumped already. So for all of you guys, whether you use New Vision or you've got your own tax agent, can I just give you one tip? Just hold off a couple of weeks, because you won't have your interest if you got interest in the bank statements through yet. group payment summaries need to catch up, and just hold on to your horses and just hold off a week or two before jumping in and getting your tax done. And we've put on a new accountant to help us out this year, and Robert's been a great addition. But one thing I'll point out to him as well, in previous years when people have come in on the 1st of July and I've lodged tax returns, the ATO system hasn't actually been ready to pick them up. And so you lodge them, and then 3 weeks later, people are calling going, what's happened? Why haven't we got our tax money? And you call the ATO, and they go, what are you talking about? Nothing's been received. So, yeah, just hold on if you can, and wait a week or two before you lodge, and then you'll probably get your money just as quickly anyway. And it'll be interesting to see, with the extra Medicare levy, are we going to get the good refunds that we've had in the past? But anyway, that's Rick's finance talk. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good night. In about 10 minutes, we've got Matt and Harold coming on for the Maggie's Hour. Yeah, have a good night, guys, and enjoy the footy tomorrow night.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Power.
Go to Power!
Go Port.
Yeah.
The heat's on in the kitchen. Oh, look at this. Play it simple. Good attack from Galapati Carlisle. He left his man. He took them on. He gets to lines. Oh, baby! The finest of white.